My friends, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and write a comment, and we begin. Part 1. The Weekend Away Expanded. The apartment, normally a haven of warmth and shared laughter, felt suffocating, the air thick with a tension that crackled like static electricity. The wedding plans, once a source of joy and anticipation, now lay scattered across the coffee table, abandoned sketches of floral arrangements, fabric swatches for the bridesmaid dresses, a half-finished seating chart that seemed to mock our fractured future. My fiance, David, had always been a bit intense. He was a successful lawyer, driven, ambitious, and consumed by a relentless pursuit of perfection. He approached everything in life with a laser focus, a meticulous attention to detail, and an unwavering determination to succeed. But beneath his polished exterior, there lay a tendency towards brooding self-reflection, a habit of retreating into his own thoughts, of becoming emotionally unavailable during times of stress. And for weeks, that's exactly what he'd been doing. He had been withdrawing, becoming distant, spending hours alone in his office, his face a mask of concentration, his eyes shadowed by a deep, unspoken worry. He was no longer the man I had fallen in love with, the man who showered me with affection, the man who made me feel cherished and secure. I tried to talk to him, to understand what was happening, to bridge the widening gap between us. I asked him if he was stressed, if he was having doubts about our relationship. He would brush off my concerns, assuring me that everything was fine, that I was overreacting. But his actions spoke louder than his words. Then he dropped the bombshell. I need a break. I need some space. I need to figure things out. The words sliced through the air like a shard of glass, piercing the fragile illusion of our happiness. I was stunned, speechless, utterly blindsided. We were supposed to be planning our wedding, building a life together. We were supposed to be partners, lovers, best friends. But now, he was suggesting a separation, a period of uncertainty that threatened to unravel everything we had built. I agreed, even though it felt like a physical blow. My heart ached with a deep, throbbing pain, a dull ache that settled in my chest. I believed in us, in our love, in the future we had envisioned together. I thought a short separation was better than a forced confrontation, better than allowing the resentment to fester. I was desperate to salvage our relationship, and I was willing to do whatever it took. We had been together for 5 years. 5 years of shared experiences, of laughter, of love, of building a life together. I was ready to marry him, to spend the rest of my life by his side. I assumed his sudden coldness was just a product of wedding stress, a little cold feet, a temporary blip in the otherwise perfect trajectory of our relationship. He packed a bag, his movements precise and deliberate, as if he were executing a carefully planned legal maneuver. He didn't look at me, not directly, his eyes avoiding mine, as if he were afraid of what he might see reflected in them. He said he was going to a cabin in the mountains, a place of solitude, to hike and think. He promised to call, his voice a monotone, devoid of any warmth. He gave me a hug that felt empty, a perfunctory embrace that offered little comfort. And then he was gone. I thought I was prepared, steeling myself for the inevitable. But the second the door closed, the silence in the apartment became deafening, and I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The weight of his absence pressed down on me, suffocating my hope, filling me with a paralyzing sense of dread. I began to cry. I was left alone. Part 2. The Silent Treatment Expanded. The apartment, once our sanctuary, now felt like a stage set for a tragedy. The 3 days David had been gone stretched into an eternity, and his return, rather than easing the tension, seemed to amplify it. He didn't come back to us. Not to our apartment that night, to a hopeful embrace, to a tearful reunion. Instead, he showed up the next morning, unannounced. The unexpected knock on the door jolted me awake, my heart pounding with a frantic hope that quickly curdled into a cold dread. He wasn't apologetic. No heartfelt embrace, no tearful explanation, just a stark, detached presence. He was distant, withdrawn, the same emotionally unavailable man who'd initiated the break, but now with an added layer of something else. A chilling indifference, a guardedness that set my teeth on edge. His eyes, once warm and expressive, now avoided mine, flicking around the room, landing everywhere but on my face. When I spoke, he answered with clipped, monosyllabic responses, as if conversation itself was a painful chore. He was physically there, but emotionally, he remained miles away, locked behind walls I couldn't scale. "How was the break?" I finally managed to ask, my voice a shaky whisper, each word carrying the weight of my fear and uncertainty. "It was fine," he shrugged, a dismissive gesture that minimized the monumental weight of those 3 days. "Did you figure things out?" I pressed, my stomach twisting into knots, bracing for an answer I didn't want to hear. "Sort of," he mumbled, vague and unhelpful. It was as if he was deliberately withholding information, creating a barrier between us. I tried to engage him in conversation, to coax him out of his shell, to understand what had happened during his time away. I tried to talk about us, about the wedding, about our future. But he deflected every attempt, changing the subject, offering platitudes, shutting me down with a practiced skill. The silence between us was deafening, a palpable force, a growing chasm that threatened to swallow us whole. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid to push him further away. I tried to make things perfect. I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom, cooked his favorite meals, even put on the dress he liked best. All in vain. Then slowly, I started to notice subtle shifts, unsettling details that chipped away at the remnants of my hope. His phone, once a casual accessory, became an extension of his hand. He guarded it fiercely, never leaving it unattended, always keeping it face down. He flinched if I got too close. He started going for walks late at night, returning hours later with vague excuses and a haunted look in his eyes. He would also take trips for work often. One night, fueled by a desperate need for answers, I waited until he was asleep and tentatively reached for his phone. He was a heavy sleeper, but the risk made my heart pound in my chest. I told myself it was for the best. I needed to know what I had done wrong. I scrolled quickly through his text messages, my eyes scanning for anything that might explain his behavior. Then I saw it, a message he'd accidentally left open. It was from Sarah, his ex-girlfriend from college, the woman he had dated for nearly 5 years before we met, the woman he had always claimed was just a friend. The message was intimate, suggestive, filled with a longing that sent a wave of nausea washing over me. It was a message no one would send a friend. He never did deny it. The truth slammed into me with the force of a physical blow, stealing my breath, leaving me reeling. He had reconnected with her during our break. All the pieces clicked into place. The secrecy, the distance, the coldness. My stomach lurched, and the carefully constructed facade of normalcy crumbled around me, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. The chill that had settled between us now intensified, transforming into an Arctic winter that threatened to freeze our relationship solid. I didn't just hate my fiance, I hated the thought of Sarah too. Part 3. The cold shoulder expanded. The following weeks were a descent into a personal hell. David, once my confidant and lover, had transformed into a stranger, a man whose words and actions were laced with a cruelty I never thought him capable of. He was a master of passive aggression, a sculptor of silence, and an expert in the art of emotional manipulation. He was distant, cold, and at times, outright cruel. He'd criticize me, picking apart everything I did, from the way I dressed, which had never been a problem, to the way I cooked, which he had always raved about. He made snide comments about our relationship, questioning our compatibility, our future, and by extension me. He would ignore me for hours on end, his attention fixed on his phone or his work, as if I were an inconvenient distraction. Then, without warning, he would snap at me, his voice sharp and accusatory, as if I had committed some unspeakable crime. He would act like my presence was a burden, a weight that was slowing him down, a problem he was trying to solve. He was constantly finding fault, picking apart my flaws with surgical precision, eroding my self-esteem bit by bit. I felt a constant pressure to perform, to be perfect, to somehow win back his affection, but no matter how hard I tried, I always failed. I started to hate the sound of his voice, the sight of his face, the very air that he breathed. I asked him about Sarah, about the intimate messages, about the nature of their relationship. I pressed for answers, desperate to understand the truth. He refused to answer, deflecting my questions with vague denials and dismissive shrugs. He would claim that he was confused, that he needed time to figure things out, that he was trying to process his feelings. All he gave me was an excuse. He refused to acknowledge the hurt he was causing, the pain he was inflicting. Instead, he treated me as if I were the problem, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. He acted as if I was the one who was selfish. I was a shell of the woman he had claimed to love, a ghost of my former self, haunted by the specter of his infidelity. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, living in a constant state of anxiety and uncertainty. The joy had vanished from my life, replaced by a deep, pervasive sadness. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of despair. I questioned whether I could ever trust him again. I questioned whether I could ever love him again. I was so angry, so heartbroken, that I wanted nothing to do with him, but I knew that I did. One bleak afternoon, I came home to find him packing a bag. The sight of his suitcase, the familiar leather and the way he packed his bag, sent a jolt of terror through me, a primal fear that tightened my throat. My stomach twisted into knots, churning with dread. Was he leaving me for good? Was this the end? I knew that this was the point. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice trembling, fighting to contain the tremor, to project a facade of strength, to hide the fear that clawed at my throat. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, a mask that concealed his true emotions. There was a darkness in his eyes, a coldness that chilled me to the bone. "I need to go," he said, his voice devoid of warmth, the words clipped and final. "I need to be alone. I need to be able to think." Is it because of Sarah?" I choked out the question, the words a raw, agonizing plea. It felt like a shot to the heart. He hesitated for a moment, his eyes darting away from mine, a telltale sign of his guilt. His gaze lingered on the floor. He could not meet my gaze. "It's complicated," he said, the phrase a well-worn cliché, a tired excuse that offered no solace. "I'm just not sure what I want anymore." "Do you love her?" I pressed, the question a raw wound, a desperate attempt to force him to confront the truth. He refused to meet my eyes. He could not speak a single word. He didn't answer. He simply turned and walked out the door, leaving me standing alone in the apartment, my heart shattered into a million pieces, the remnants of our life together scattered around me like shards of broken glass. He didn't even look back. Part 4. The revelation expanded. The weeks that followed David's departure were a blur of pain and confusion, a desolate landscape of grief and self-doubt. The apartment, once a symbol of our shared life, now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of everything I had lost. The wedding plans remained scattered on the coffee table, gathering dust, mocking my shattered dreams. I was a ghost, moving through my days in a daze, unable to eat, unable to sleep, unable to function. I lost weight, my skin grew pale, and dark circles formed under my eyes. I would spend hours staring at the ceiling, replaying our memories, searching for clues, for anything that might explain his sudden and inexplicable change of heart. The more I thought, the more confused I became. I did not understand what I did. I couldn't concentrate at work. My performance suffered, and my boss, while sympathetic, warned me that I needed to pull myself together. I tried to put on a brave face, to pretend that everything was fine, but the strain was unbearable. My friends tried to console me, offering words of comfort, inviting me out for dinner, trying to distract me from my pain. But their words offered little comfort. I felt isolated, cut off from the world, as if a thick pane of glass separated me from everyone else. I felt like no one understood my pain. Then, one day, amidst the fog of my despair, the phone rang. I answered it without looking at the caller ID, my voice hollow and lifeless. "Hello," I said, barely audible. There was a moment of silence, a pause that stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Then, a voice, trembling and hesitant, spoke on the other end of the line. "Hello, Susan? It's Sarah." My heart skipped a beat. Sarah, David's ex-girlfriend. The woman who had been the catalyst for my pain, the source of my misery. the woman I had blamed for everything. What would she want with me? "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling, her words urgent and desperate. "I need you to know the truth. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve a better life than that man provides." I listened, my mind racing, my hands shaking. What could she possibly have to say? What new level of pain was she about to inflict? What could she possibly want? She revealed that David had not been completely honest with me about what had happened during the break, about the nature of their relationship. She painted a picture of manipulation and deceit, a web of lies that David had woven to serve his own selfish purposes. She told me that they had reconnected, that they had spent the break together, but that things had not gone as David had described. He had not been honest about the reasons for the split. He wanted to create a situation that was advantageous to him. But the shocking part? Sarah told me that David had told her that he was unhappy in our relationship, that he didn't love me, and that he wanted to be with her. They had spent the break together, exploring their feelings, reconnecting on a deeper level. But Sarah told me that he'd felt guilty about me because he was going to get married. He had told her that he didn't want to be the bad guy, that he wanted me to break it off, that he was a coward, that he could not make up his mind. Sarah confessed that she realized what was happening, that David was playing both of us, manipulating us for his own gratification. He wanted the best of both worlds, the comfort and security of our relationship, and the excitement and novelty of a connection with his ex. I listened in stunned silence, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place, revealing a horrifying picture of betrayal and manipulation. All I had to do was figure out what to do. Part 5. The Wedding Bell Blues. Revisited, expanded. The phone dropped from my trembling hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. Sarah's words echoed in my ears, each syllable a fresh wound, a confirmation of my worst fears. I was numb, shocked. I could not believe what I had heard. The pain was almost unbearable, but now, I could start to come back. I paced the apartment, my mind reeling, my emotions a chaotic mix of anger, betrayal, and a burning desire for revenge. He had lied, manipulated, and used me. He had shattered my trust, my heart, and my future. But then a new emotion ignited within me, a fierce determination. I would not let him win. I would not let him destroy me. I would not let him get away with this. I would not be the victim. I knew what to do. I called Sarah back, my voice now steady and controlled. We talked for hours, piecing together the full extent of David's deception. She confirmed the truth, sharing everything that had happened, everything that he had said and done. Then we devised a plan. We would not let him escape the consequences of his actions. I wasn't ready for this level of emotional torture. I decided that I would use her, a tool to my advantage. I didn't respond to David's calls. I didn't answer his texts. I ignored his attempts to reach out. I knew that he would come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, desperately seeking another chance. I had to prepare for my new life. And a few months later, as predicted, he did. He showed up at my apartment, his face etched with remorse, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. He apologized profusely, begging for another chance, promising to make amends, to make me happy, to make our relationship better than ever. He poured out his heart, detailing his regrets, acknowledging his mistakes, and expressing his undying love. He had been miserable without me, he said, lost and adrift in a sea of loneliness and regret. He had realized that I was the only woman he had ever truly loved, and he wanted nothing more than to spend the rest of his life with me. I listened patiently, allowing him to pour out his heart, to express his remorse, to expose his vulnerabilities. I let him believe that I was considering his pleas. Then the moment arrived. The grand finale. I told him that I would finally be ready. I gave my permission. I didn't say no or yes. I allowed the situation to play out. Then I told him I needed to get ready. I needed to go out. Then I pulled out a box, the size and shape of a wedding invitation. My face said it all. The invitation was addressed. It was to his best friend, Mark. Then I said the words that would forever shatter his carefully constructed world. No, David. I'm calling off the wedding. He froze, his face a mask of shock, his carefully constructed facade crumbling before my eyes. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He tried to say something, but his words were caught in his throat. He begged me to stay, to reconsider, to give him another chance. "No, it's over," I said, my voice calm and resolute, but the pain of the words still brought tears to my eyes. The truth was out. I did not like this person anymore. This was no longer my David. Then I revealed the invitation. The box was filled with invitations, all of them addressed. "What is that?" he stammered, his voice barely audible, his eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. It was for my upcoming wedding. I handed him the invitation, the final blow, the ultimate act of defiance. I had found happiness with someone who truly loved and cherished me, someone who valued my heart and my happiness. His face crumpled, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and devastating realization. The color drained from his face. He was pale and shaken. He finally understood the full extent of his mistakes, the depth of his cruelty, and the irreversible damage he had inflicted. He realized the extent of his selfishness. I walked out of his apartment, leaving him to wallow in his misery, to contemplate the consequences of his choices, and to face the truth that he had lost me forever. The door closed behind me. I was free. I never saw him again. A few months later, surrounded by my friends and family, I married Mark, the man who had always loved me, the man who had been my rock through the darkest of times, the man who deserved my love and loyalty. I was finally happy. My life was no longer a twisted game of broken promises and deceit. It was now a testament to the fact that you could truly move on, that you could heal, and that you could find love and happiness again, even after experiencing the most profound heartbreak. The wedding bells rang, and they were beautiful. And they were a celebration of my triumph, my resilience, and my unwavering belief in the power of love and forgiveness. I had won.